For those of you who didn't watch the previous episode of our podcast, go and watch it now. My guest then was Mick Hawkes, and he's back with me this week for part 2. Mick is an amazing character, and that was an utterly brilliant episode. Go and watch it now, and then come back and watch this one. Hello again, Mick. How do you feel after the previous one?
Yeah, no, all good. It's it's nice to be in Poole actually, away from Hereford, and it's just nice to be being able to talk, which is good.
Yeah. Now, we were discussing in the episode last time, your time in the SAS. As you were approaching the end of that time, we moved on to a different branch of the security services. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's bizarrely just before we finished Bosnia, we got a call, or I got a call to say that I was going to be attached to MI5 down in London. To the surveillance and stuff like that, and purely for the stuff we've done in Northern Ireland.
Surveillance wasn't one of your favourite things, though, was it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, apparently they thought it was okay, but it was totally different. MI5 civilian organisation, predominantly civilian organisation, compared to the surveillance we do in Northern Ireland. Totally different because you can hide in London doing surveillance. You can't hide in Northern Ireland, and your third-party awareness in Northern Ireland is right up there. Not so much in London, so the professionalism side of it was totally different. Bear in mind that 1 minute you're following people with AK-47s, next minute you're following Russians, and they're dumping cans, and we're following a can of Coke. That may be a dead letterbox or whatever.
Okay.
So basically, it might be a message has been put inside an empty can. So MI5 will be following the can that's been thrown in a bin. Not my cup of tea, to be quite frank. I'd rather be following an AK-47.
Really? Yeah. I think you're mad, but that's another story.
Yeah, it's different mindset, I suppose, but enjoyable. They're nice people to work with. Made quite a few friends down there. But I mean, we're all on the same side. We're all, trying to fight terrorism. Same as the police. We're all trying to aim for the same goal.
You went from MI5, and then that was basically the end of your military career, was it?
When I came back, so I was then on my final 2 years, and I took over the head of the close quarter battle cell based at Pontralis. So basically all the shooting, and it was all to do with training predominantly the 14th people when they went over to Northern Ireland.
So your previous colleagues, your previous role, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was me and a lad called Kev Jones, rest in peace, who passed away unfortunately about 5 years ago. We ran it for 2 years. We changed the whole concept of the course. And the reason being is when we took it over, the course had been run the same way for many, many years. And it just needed to be upgraded or updated because of things that had happened years ago were not happening now. So we need to change the whole. So we had a fantastic chief instructor who we went and sat down with, who totally agreed. So we changed the whole concept, and it was good because you had an input.
So how about your mindset of changing to be an instructor compared to being frontline out in all the action? How did you cope with the change?
Yeah, easy. Because I first did instruction with the All Arms Commander course before I actually joined the regiment.
Right.
I was actually one of the youngest people in the Royal Artillery to pass a armoured fighting vehicle recognition course, which normally sergeants and sergeant majors pass. And I was just a bucksheet gunner. Went down there was 12 of us on the course, 2 of us passed, me and a sergeant. And that's where you have to stand up and talk about a tank, how you recognise it. It's not everyone's cup of tea. It's quite a difficult subject. But I seem to excel at it because I was really interested in the subject. And I think that resonates with how we do it now. If you're going to teach something, make sure you know the business. because the first question that comes up, if you don't know your subject matter, you look a fool. And I come across quite easygoing.
I wouldn't want to get on your wrong side, Mick.
Yeah, well, I must admit, on the CQB cell, we have a really relaxed manner until you step on the plate. And as soon as you step on the plate and your pistol's out, everything's really serious. And we had an incident where we had two people firing on the same side of the street, so having to fire over the top of each other, which is actually quite dangerous. The normal Green Army don't do stuff like that. It's just what we do. And it's an easy drill, as long as you get it right. And what happened, we had a female and we had an ex-paratrooper who was about to become part of the DET. And it was actually the paratrooper who was at fault, because instead of looking behind him to make eye contact, to say, I'm about to stand up, he just stood up. Just as the girl behind him fired, and basically parted his hair. That's how close it came.
Goodness.
So because all our serials that we do are video recorded, because of the nature, for evidence, if we have a fatality. But it was too good an opportunity not to show the rest of the course. And what we said to them, we got everybody sat in the cinema. And when you're watching it slow time, it's even more scary, watching the hair get parted.
Yeah.
And the message is, if you mess up doing the surveillance package, you get a slap on the wrist. You mess up on the close target recce, slap on the wrist. You mess up on the range, someone's likely to get killed. Yes, we're pretty laid back when we're up there, but when you're on that firing line, deadly serious,
When I was doing a lot of TV news editing, I had some footage sent through to me, and it was an interview of, I think it was Iraq, if I remember rightly, and a guy sat down on the floor and he's answering the interviewer's questions, and suddenly you see this puff of dust just literally over his shoulder, a concrete pillar, and when we slowed it down, you could see basically the bullet impact and shatter and it, couple of inches away from his head during that live interview. Incredible stuff. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. After a period of doing instruction, your time in the military came to an end. Can I ask why you left at that point?
Yeah, basically that was my contract finish. So I'd done the full 22 years. Time to move on. It was funny because I was out for a run, and the Sergeant Major of B Squadron was on his bike, and we bumped into each other. And he said, "Oh, Mick, I've got to ask you, would you like to do a 5-year continuance?" So basically, they'll send you somewhere for 2 years in the regiment, but then your 3 years after that could be anywhere. So you could end up in the stores or whatever. And I just thought, 40 years of age in the SAS, you've done your bit. It's a young man's game, to be honest. And I just thought, nah, not for me. So it was time to move on,
Yeah. So you moved into private security, and that took you all over the world, yeah?
Yeah, it's funny because I actually applied to join the UN, purely because I wasn't impressed in Bosnia with the UN. So I applied, bizarrely. Chechnya was just kicking off, and Chechnya was really dangerous at the time. And so I applied to the UN as head of security for Chechnya. Nothing else, just Chechnya. Hoping that the UN might actually go in there, Anyway, they didn't. So they rang me up with a contract, and it was working as a security guard in East Timor on a barrier. And I just thought, 22 years in the military, I'm not starting from that again, No. So I turned it down and then refocused on the gas and oil industry. Which I then did for the next 22 years.
We're going to sort of bypass that, what is a large period of your life, to be fair, 22 years, because I want to come on to what you've done in more recent times. Before we get into Hawks and Co., the book. You've had quite a time with trying to get a book published, haven't you? Tell me about that.
So the book's becoming a bit of an epic itself.
What's it called?
Life on the Edge. It's not a Bravo 20. It's about the family man, the individual, and it's resilience, mental fortitude, based on our life experiences, from 15 and a half being saying you can't be a professional footballer anymore, to being told you can't parachute, to getting a pin in your ankle, and just ignoring everything and just getting on with it, using life experience. But the original author, Nicole Johnston, who's an Australian girl, feminist, left wing, a person you would never ever expect to write an XSAS book. When we started talking and how I wanted the book, she was hook, line and sinker on it. She absolutely loved it. And I thought, if we can convince this type of person, we can convince anyone like but unfortunately, just as we got to the final chapter, so we'd been working on the book for about 12 months, got to the final chapter, and unfortunately, Nicole became quite ill, and she passed away about 6-7 months later. So I didn't want the book to go to anyone else because it was our work. It was a co-author type book. I didn't really want anyone else to ruin it because it was a lot of hard work done by her. Had a chat with her husband, and during the funeral, it came out that she regretted not finishing the book. Mm. So we then sort of made a pledge that, listen, let's get it finished. We then gave it to another authoress, who knew Nicole. Unfortunately, her mum became ill, so she couldn't work on it.
Goodness.
And then I was given a career talk up in Bury, of all places, and a journalist contacted me, a guy called Neil Broadhurst from the Bury Times, who'd written Victoria Wood's autobiography. Right. So volunteered, nice of him, to do the book free of charge, to finish it and get it out there. Bizarrely, on the 2nd of September, he sent me a text message. So he'd redone the first chapter, not redone it, but added a bit to it. Then sent me a text on the 2nd of September to say that, unfortunately, because of a conflict of interest, he can't work on the book anymore. However, he was going to pass it on to a very good friend of his called Tony from Manchester, which was fine. No issues with that, and thanked him for doing that. Anyway, unbeknown to me, Neil committed suicide on that day. So it was his way, really, of saying, Mick, I'm about to commit suicide. I'm about to give your book over to someone else. But
that's horrific,
no red flags.
Isn't it?
Yeah, but really weird. Really.
How did that make you feel? That
bad.
whole,
Yeah. So, and it wasn't until 2 weeks later when it came to light, when an obituary came out in the Bury Times, and it was Tony that sent me the piece, and then we just worked out the date that he'd committed suicide to the text message, same day. Guilt, because there was no red flag there. There was no inclination that he was feeling that way. In a bad way, I suppose, and especially not long after having our demons as well, when it came to light. Difficult time.
The book itself, before we again go back to Hawks & Co., at what period does that take you up to in your life?
It starts from school age, and mum and dad getting divorced, and how as a young kid you cope with that. Mm-hmm. Go to the 14 different schools, how you cope with mixing in with, because it can be quite hard. Moving school, quite difficult. Being turned down by Lincoln City, so your dreams shattered. So it really took us all the way up through what we're actually doing now.
So it does encompass.
Yeah. So the final chapter that me and Tony are working on at the moment is all about Hawks & Co.
Right.
And what we're trying to do now and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Well, now seems like a good time to explore Hawks & Co. Tell me about it. What is it? Yeah,
so Hawks & Co. was born out of... so I was in Netherlands as head of security for a company called SBM Offshore. And really it was time to... And I'd done that for 15 years. No security incidents worldwide with our assets. Using personal safety situation awareness mentality to keep people safe. And it's great. Proof's in the pudding. It works. If people buy into it, it works. So we came back really to start off this small company, and I tried to get my daughter involved. And the reason being is, 3 boys in the military. She's of the same ilk, same mentality. She walked up Ben Nevis at the age of 7, set climbing ropes up at the age of 9, and abseiled off all 4 ropes that she put up to test them. So she's pretty hardcore girl. So when we did the personal safety situation awareness, we brought in a thing called breakaway. Breakaway is all it is what it says. It's basically if someone grabs you, by using body mechanics, you can pull away. So when you're teaching children and females specifically, they relate to my daughter, because when they see a girl doing it, Akili's 27 now.
Right.
She's got a fearsome left hook, but she's a girly, with a military mentality.
Yeah.
So
chip off the old block then, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So she played a real pivotal role really, and one of her mentors is a guy called James Johnson and Lofty Wiseman, Alan White.
Right.
Them
These are
type
colleagues of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So hardcore individuals who no nonsense type trainers, which are unfortunately are few and far. They're a bit of a dying breed at the moment for some reason. But she gets taught by top people who don't mess about. So we have that mentality. So unfortunately, with the security industry, it's all about the welfare of a bad person. We don't do that. All our teaching is the welfare of the individual when you're dealing with bad people.
It's interesting that you said break away, because there are many self-defense courses out there that really teach sort of stand and fight, really, don't they? Now that's, to me, has always seemed a bit Hollywood.
It is. I'm not a big fan. It works for some people, doesn't work for everyone. And the reason being is you get taught in a sterile environment against a person you know, and it's all controlled, different on the street, totally different. And to snap someone's jaw or snap an elbow of an individual, you have to have a bit of a bad streak about you, otherwise it ain't going to work. So our philosophy really is situational awareness. Don't put yourself in that position in the first place, because not everybody can do self-defense. Everybody has got the capability of doing situational awareness. It's the thinking man's or the thinking person's self-defense.
If somebody comes at you or is in the vicinity with a knife, for example, let alone a gun, I've always been told, just get out of there, get as far away as you can. Don't try and be a hero.
Yeah. And that's it, exactly. Because, unfortunately, not everybody's a ninja warrior. If you've got an ex-SAS guy or an SBS lad walking down pool and they see something like that, quite rightly, they're going to step in and deal with it.
Yeah.
One, because they're trained and they've got the mentality to do that. You can't expect the average civilian to do that because, unfortunately, something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, the Kenya shopping mall is not exactly an everyday occurrence, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And but they, as we always say, the only knife fight or confrontation you are guaranteed to walk away from is the one that you avoid. And the reason we do the breakaway is purely because a lot of kids get grabbed by either other kids or adults, and it's just understanding the body mechanics of how to pull away, how to get yourself, and then it's followed by an extraction, how you get yourself out of trouble, how to get away. It's certainly not about putting people on the offensive of trying to fight your way, because that defeats the object. It's all about. But we do a thing called Plan B.
Right.
So kiddies under 16 will only ever get taught breakaway. And the reason being is when we teach adults, we bring in a thing called Plan B. And Plan B is if the breakaway doesn't work.
Yeah.
So here's how to dislocate a jaw really quickly, or if somebody's grabbed you, here's how to dislocate the elbow really quickly. To then get away from the situation. Just because you snapped his arm now, or just because you've broken his jaw, doesn't give you right now to get stuck in, because what we tend to forget is there are lots of cameras all over the place. And unfortunately, we're in a society that favours the criminals and not the good people. So you've always got to be aware of how you respond to an incident.
For any of my customers who are thinking, however stupid they may be, of stopping using our services for their video productions, be very afraid, because Mick is going to spend some time with me afterwards. You've been warned. It's been a struggle, though, hasn't it? The take up.
It has. You know, it's funny because we teach active shooter and the knife rampage, exactly what happened in Manchester. Now, we started off, because I was based over in Europe, so in 2015 when we had the major Paris attacks, we sat down with our directors and said, listen, we need to teach active shooter and stuff like that, really, because, you know, if somebody walked in your office, people need to know what their options are. And we use run, hide, fight, same as the Americans. Over here in the UK, it's run, hide, tell. The reason I'm not a fan of run, hide, tell is when you've got a guy with a weapon, knife or whatever, one, you need to get away. If you can't get away, you're going to hide. The last thing you want to be doing is getting your mobile phone out, because you need your wits about you. You need full attention of what's going on. So you're then planning on, where am I going to pick up a weapon to try and save my life. And that's why we do the run, hide, fight.
Substantially, I would imagine that the incident itself is kind of like largely over or established before anybody can respond to it. And
Yeah.
the recent situation at the synagogue in Manchester was quite unusual in that the response time was so fast, wasn't it?
It was, and that's why they teach the way they teach over here. It's predominantly a police taught drill, based on the police having a reaction. But our teaching is self-reliance. You need to do it. And the other thing, we tend to go into the place of work to do the teaching. We don't ask people to come to a sterile classroom to teach active shooter. People need to understand their own environment. Because what you're teaching them about the options that they've got is where they can hide. And the classic one really are toilets. There's toilets on just about every office block floor. They're always inward opening doors, which means you can chop the door to stop someone coming in. There's no windows, so it's an obvious safe location. So we provide them, and we show them the sort of chock that you can buy, that you can ram under a door and stop that door from coming in. Because generally active shooters are on the clock. When they start shooting or stabbing, they know that they're on a time clock. And so they tend not to hang about. So if they can't get into a door, and this is why we teach people to be on the safe side, put your door chock in, kick it under, and then lay on the floor with your foot on the chock. And the reason being is if somebody fires through the door in frustration, they're not going to hit you, because people don't fire down through a door, they'll fire through the door straight ahead. So, and it just gives people the option of hiding out of sight, out of mind.
See, now, something that springs into my head here is that many organisations will have the fire service come round and draw up fire exit strategies, fire exit plans.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think it's that probable that you're going to have a fire in a building. And, and so why don't they consider all kind of thing?
And a lot of it is we don't have an appetite in the UK for keeping people safe.
Do you think it's complacency? People think it's never going to happen to me? Yeah,
absolutely. And also cost. People are not willing to pay for a service. They'd rather, I know it's sad to say, but they'd rather have another Manchester arena attack than fork out doing the sort of training that we do. And we are a bit niche with our training, which is probably why we've struggled. The active shooter and the knife rampage. We've taught it all over the world. China, it's been taught in China, America, all over South America, all over Africa, all over the Far East, Middle East. Never ever taught in the UK. That tells a story.
It does. I can sense a real frustration in your voice. I totally get it as well. What do you think you can do to change that viewpoint?
Yeah, well, we're quite vocal. We use LinkedIn as a platform, really. I'm not a fan of the present security industry, purely because the standards are pretty poor. There's some really good people in the security industry.
But what do you actually mean specifically within the security industry? Do you mean, are you talking about people on doors in pubs? Are you thinking about close protection operatives?
No.
What sort of things?
No, this is across the board. So, unfortunately, with the security industry, it's governed by the Security Industry Authority, SIA. They're the ones that issue licenses. They're the ones that maintain standards, or supposed to. When you think 20 odd years ago, the security industry was 85% ex-military or police, because it was the natural progression. Now, more than 85% is civilian. A lot of illegals coming over, rather than joining Deliveroo, food. What's the next? They'll stick them in the security industry because it's a low-paid industry. And all of a sudden they're the ones that are guarding some of these venues that are supposedly going to be more secure when this Martin's Law comes into play. But Martin's Law is only as good as your weakest link. And if the security industry don't step up, then Martin's Law is going to be a total waste of time.
Well, there's sort of sense of playing devil's advocate here. I mean, a determined terrorist, you can intercept them, but it's very hard to stop them getting started, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and this is why we're very vocal with the situation awareness, because as we saw with the Manchester Arena bomb, you had a Middle Eastern-looking chap with an oversized coat on in the middle of summer, with a backpack, walking past, looking really suspicious, walking past the police, emergency services, managed to get into the arena, into the foyer, detonated a bomb. Now that should have been picked up, situation awareness. But a lot of it in today's society is people don't want to be called out for being racist because they've just picked something up, and that's why we're falling flat somewhat. Let's stop using the race card. If you're a bad person carrying a knife, for instance, then quite rightly you should be called out for it,
In the interest of balance, there have been incidents of evil that are not all from the Middle East.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because people always used to say to us, SAS versus the IRA. No, it wasn't. It was the SAS in Northern Ireland against bad people, causing, same as in Bosnia. We had no favourites. Same as in Northern Ireland. If you're a bad person carrying a gun, you're going to get shot by the SAS. Simple as that. Whether you're a Catholic, whether you're a Protestant, whatever. Same as in Bosnia. In Bosnia, the French were likened to the Serbs. Germans were very pally with the Croats. The Americans were the Muslims. Russians were the Serbs. Brits hated all of them. Because they're all potentially bad people. There are bad people wherever you are. And just because you're of a certain religion or race or whatever, if you're a bad person, you're a bad person and you need to be dealt with.
Being dealt with, many years down the line, the issue of being dealt with and has reared its head with the prosecutions of ex-forces personnel.
Yeah.
Give me your take on that.
Yeah, shocking, really, because Special Forces, British Army, police over in Ulster, undercover people, they're sent there to do a job.
It's not just Northern Ireland now.
It's Afghanistan. Yeah. But it's lawyers who are trying to apply the law as they see it now onto a battlefield without actually understanding what they're up against. Now, in Afghanistan, for instance, whenever the SAS go on operations, it's normally against really bad people, and that's what people tend to forget. If they were normal bad people, they'd just send the British Army, normal army people. Yeah, you can deal with that. When the regiment go in to deal with a group of people, these are bad people that sending the normal army would probably get the army killed. So the regiment go in and sort it out. So trying to apply a law as it stands by a solicitor or a lawyer in the UK to what's actually happening realistically on the battlefield, it doesn't wash.
Away from the military, but we had the police situation of shooting people in a car. If I was in that situation, I'd realise, I think, that I've got a split second to make up my mind. Yes or no, what do I do?
Yeah.
You don't even take that long. You're instant with your reaction.
Yep.
Yeah. I couldn't fathom how somebody could be prosecuted for making a wrong decision under those circumstances.
Yeah, the incident you were talking about, the police one, it was so obvious to the normal people that the policeman was quite right within his action or reaction, because when a guy is actually using a car as a weapon, and you're putting, because you're not only thinking about your own life, you're thinking about lives of your colleagues and also the wider public. And that's the same as in Northern Ireland. That's who you're looking out for. And when you've got a guy who intent on harming people, then you have to stop him. And unfortunately, with the police here at the moment, it's getting to the stage now where every time they open fire, they're looking over the shoulder, which makes them ineffective.
I don't know if you've seen this in the news, but in the last day or so, the incident in Manchester at synagogue, the police did shoot and kill the perpetrator, but unfortunately there was stray bullets that killed one and I think injured another.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen in the press, but in the news yesterday, those police are not going to face any further action, which surely is understandable.
Yeah, it is, because if you was to push that further now, and we have another incident, which there will be, police will be absolutely really reluctant to open fire, because not only are they concerned about the terrorists themselves, but they're also looking over their shoulder, wondering, "Hold on, am I going to be prosecuted?" And you can't have that. You can't have that mindset when you are dealing with terrorists. It's cut and dry.
Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you've got that in your mind and you're pointing your weapon at somebody and they're armed, you could be dead because of that reaction,
Yeah.
and you being dead means that other people are now potentially going to be killed as well.
The military mentality when dealing with a terrorist is slightly different to police mentality. Normally, a soldier wouldn't think twice about pulling the trigger.
Historically,
Yeah,
now,
and this is why the prosecutions really are totally undermining military operations.
what do you think is the way forward here then? What do you think could be done to improve it?
Yeah, for lawyers to walk in the same shoes as the people that they're trying to prosecute and understand, send them over to Afghan and see what it's like on the ground.
It's not just the lawyers though, is it? I mean, it goes above.
Yeah, well, the police, for instance, the only people that should have an inquiry about an officer that's pulled the trigger is another officer, senior officer, that has been in the same position and pulled the trigger, because he understands that mindset. You can't have a guy who has never been on the front line, going through that and trying to prosecute an individual who's never been there, who's never been through that situation. It's just farce.
With all of that said and accepted, do you think that there could be some genuine reasons where people have overstepped the mark as well, and they should be investigated?
Yeah, I do, but I'm not a fan of prosecuting just one side. If you're going to prosecute people for being overzealous, then that should be done right across the board, everyone. because otherwise you're going to get resentment, and that's why the military feel a lot of resentment at the moment, especially in Northern Ireland, because you've got the IRA. When you think 90% of the deaths in Northern Ireland were attributed to terrorism, 10% to Crown forces, 1% of that 10% through dubious shootings, let's say. They've been prosecuted. Hold on. What about the 90% of the people? And bearing in mind that the dubious shootings, Bloody Sunday, for instance, people, British Army people don't wake up in the morning and right, I'm going to go out and shoot someone today. The IRA do. They plan it. They're bombs. I am going to slaughter as many people as I can. These people are walking the streets of Belfast, Londonderry, and wherever. No prosecution, no worry at all. And it's unfortunately quite oldish now military people that are being questioned about an incident. Bearing in mind that they're responding to an incident that happens, and they've got split seconds to deal with it. But their true meaning is to protect the general public and each other.
At the end of the previous episode, we spoke about your time in Sweden and how that ultimately led to hearing loss in your left ear. You have had quite a battle to get compensation from the MOD, haven't you? It's still not resolved even. So obviously we've got to be careful how much detail we go into here. But give me an outline of your feelings about that.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of military people probably feel the same way, that the MOD are sort of just left you in the lurch, I suppose. With metal in your head, and a lot of people are claiming for tinnitus, and I understand that. Tinnitus, not the nicest of thing. But when you've got metal in your head and you're stone deaf, and literally it was only 3 years ago that someone said, Mick, you actually should claim. So I went through the system, but to be told, yeah, Mick, no, that never happened. You don't lose your hearing instantly without something untoward happening in your head. This is not a general fade. This is an instant deafness while you're on the phone. There's something amiss there. And when we did the MRI scan, and they said, Mick, you've got metal in your head. So that metal that was in your arm is now lodged in the back of your head. For the MOD to poo-poo that, really, and just say, listen, we're happy that you're deaf, stone deaf, since 1997. So we're happy to for you to claim that, and totally dismiss the other bit. Bearing in mind that bit of metal could do more damage. Frustrating, disappointed. Bearing in mind that you've given 24 years to the military. You expect some sort of help coming back,
You think that's a part of a wider picture of the way veterans are treated by the MOD and by the government?
Yeah, you talk to any ex-military, and it's the same story. It's as if you've done your time now, regardless of what's happened to you. You're on your own, and it's disappointing because most people probably wouldn't claim it if they knew that they were going to get a claim, quite rightly a claim straight away. They wouldn't drag it out or whatever, But yeah, it's the attitude really of the MOD is frustrating for military and serving people.
And that, I suppose, spreads across into the situation we see with homeless veterans as well.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. When homeless veterans, they should be the number one priority. These people have fought for their country, and the flag. People talk about the flag. Hold on, we use that flag to drape on our coffins. When someone gets killed over in Afghanistan. So yeah, veterans.
We all saw the wooden basset funeral marches.
Yeah, I unfortunately witnessed the Chinook helicopter crash. I was over in Northern Ireland, and I was walking my dog when all the bodies got brought back, and all laid out. And it's a It's a sad sight, and it resonates with me massively, knowing that the people are still fighting for justice. But that's across the board, you know. It's military people, veterans. We get a bit of a rough deal, I would say.
And that rough deal leads me into my next point, really, because there's been a spiral into debt that you've struggled to cope with, and um, and that's led to some mental health issues for you. And just give me an outline of the kind of things that you've had to deal with there.
I used to poo-poo mental health, silent weakness, literally until 5, 6 weeks ago. Doing a job over in Northern Ireland, surveillance, came back on a high. Woke up in the morning with anxiety. 3 o'clock in the morning, sweating. Just totally overwhelmed with financial debt. Feeling worthless.
You'd never experienced this before.
No, 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 no. To be honest, I've never claimed unemployment benefit. I've always worked, and you know, came from a really high-ranking security position, corporate security, to thinking that we're going to, make the world a better place by teaching people how to stay safe, and companies how businesses can stay safe. Write a book. But it's all gone. Oh, it's all gone pear shaped, and you just have that feeling of worthlessness and failing. I very rarely fail. I failed my first selection. But just totally feel worthless, and as if what you're doing is not worthy of anyone. And it's frustrating. It's really frustrating time. When you're writing letters and things to say farewell.
You put a post on LinkedIn, which I saw actually the day you posted it, but somewhat later in the day. I was truly horrified. At that point, you and I didn't know each other. We were connected on LinkedIn, and that was it. And I was really worried, and we'll come on to that in a moment. What motivated you to write that post on LinkedIn? Because it's pretty harrowing to be.
Yeah, that was my way of saying farewell. On LinkedIn we are quite vocal, and I understand that we're not everyone's cup of tea. Um, what we do generally, it's well received. All the stuff what we do, because people understand that we are trying to make life better. By it's too easy for good guys to sit on their hands and do nothing. Which is why the country's in the state it's in at the moment. Sometimes you just need people to put their head above the parapet and just say what it is directly. That's how we go about. If we see something that's not right, we'll tell them it's not right. From
It's a generational thing,
yeah, absolutely. And if I don't say it, some of the younger lads whose careers are on the line are definitely not going to say it. So they're reliant really on some of the older people to stand up and be counted. And I'm that way. I'm not a crusader by any means. I just like to see good standards, people doing the basics well, if that makes sense. And so that was my way of saying, listen, I do apologise for being a bit loud and but my time's up.
It genuinely, everybody watching this, it was really sickening to see that. And you and I were speaking earlier. I had a friend who a few years ago committed suicide, and I immediately looked at that and thought, I've got to do something to help Mick. Thankfully, in a sense, I was actually way too late, and somebody had reacted to that post already, haven't they? What happened?
Yeah, so I have the dogs. My dogs don't come on the bed ever. I've got two French bulldogs, Lou and Rana. Never come up on the bed, but I had them on the bed, 4 o'clock in the morning. Um, Really just saying our farewells to the dog, and all this sort of stuff. And because mountain troop, so plenty of climbing ropes everywhere. I thought the easy option really is just to hang yourself, really. So let's just get on with it, Sent four text messages to really good friends. Just say, listen, nice to know you, all that sort of thing, and time's up really. And sorry, yeah. So the next thing I know really is my son was banging on the door. My son lives in the driveway with he's got a blind German Shepherd. And the police were behind him. So someone had picked up on it instantly, and the police turned up. So a bit of a state running, went downstairs, spoke to a female police officer. Unashamedly, bawled my eyes out talking to her.
Good for you. I'm
Yeah,
glad you felt that you could.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it was hard. When one minute you're going to commit suicide, and next minute you're talking. So anyway, and two of my sons turned up. My eldest son turned up with my youngest son. My daughter turned up, and then it was a feeling of guilt about flipping out. What would have happened if I've actually carried that through? Because I've got fantastic kids.
Yeah.
Two great dogs. Unfortunately, Lou's a bit of a problem child who doesn't like people. It's a bit like his dad. But yeah, how would he have coped? And so the aftermath and the next day especially was a feeling of real guilt and trying to resonate what what we were thinking. What the hell? Because I've never ever felt that way before. Never had that amount of demons to think. Yeah, the easy solution here is to hang yourself. And but it's just what we do. I personally don't think the UK has got the appetite to keep people safe, because all we're all about is helping people. Tomorrow, we're helping Kurdish Women's Refuge. We're helping a single female ex-druggie who's getting hassle off other drug users. That's what we're all about, helping people.
This is an incredible, tale, Mick, and I feel sort of like helpless in listening to you here. But and I'm sorry to sort of push the points on what was a traumatic moment, but by doing so, I'm really, really hoping that people watching this will resonate and understand and also reflect on how it affects them.
Yeah,
And that's the point of doing this. It's not to glorify or get likes for the podcast.
yeah,
I genuinely want the same as you. I want that as people.
yeah.
And you said you felt ashamed, at the time, but go forward a few hours. Did that feeling subside, and did you start to develop an understanding?
Yeah, about 2 days later, because I had so many phone calls from people. I had people that I've never heard of, no connection at all. Giving their time to talk. Where I live, I live in a quite an isolated location. Nearest neighbour is 400 metres away. Two dogs that don't speak a word of, trying to get a conversation out of them.
Mind you, they make more sense than you, Mick.
Yeah. So yeah, so talking is not it's not been a big thing really. Which is probably why we're vocal on LinkedIn and now doing the podcast. But as we always say when we do training, if you just remember one little item that we've talked about, and it keeps you safe, and everything's worthwhile. And it's the same as the mental health thing. Like I say, I literally before 5 weeks ago, I poo-pooed mental health as sign of weakness. Now, by talking to it, and people understand that anybody, even if you think you're a bit of a roughy chuffy, at some stage you're going to suffer with mental health, or something's going to occur in your life where you just feel totally hopeless, and if people understand that it can come from anyone, and it actually forces them to talk to someone, and it stops them doing what we were thinking of doing, then it's worth it.
I think it's incredibly heartwarming that you mentioned that people have been in touch, supporting. I mean, you and I have met through this, and I think it's fabulous that you've come in today to talk about this. And I'm so glad that you've been getting support. And this morning, for example, we went off to breakfast together as well. And by the way, I ate mine. Mick couldn't manage his. We were chatting with Rob Eaton, who runs the Stronghold, and he's so keen to try and help as well. And I think this is just fabulous. And
It is, and we're a funny old community, the old veterans. And we tend to bounce off each other. One minute, I can help you. Next minute, they can help me. And I think that's the community in general. And it's like-minded people that understand. What veterans go through, I suppose, because it is quite unique. A civilian will never ever understand what it's like being blown up and seeing people that you know really well losing the back of their head in front of you, and just won't understand that, and we are a bit of a unique sort of organisation that do stick together.
so your ex-colleagues, who are never ex-colleagues, they're always colleagues, haven't they? How supportive have they been? I imagine that there's been a lot of dark humour around it as well, and a bit of come on, Mick, pull it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that's a regiment in a nutshell. Basically, it's just get on with it, and we've done that. Been captured and stuff like that. It's how we are. But they're very supportive. We've had the SAS Association putting an arm around you. A really good friend of mine who was actually in that patrol when me and Billy got captured. He was one of the other two. He's been through the same thing. He was on the phone straight away. Let's go around for a cup of coffee. Billy Billingham. So I went for a therapy session, quite emotional. 2 hours with a therapist. Came out of the therapy session, got a phone call from Billy Billingham. Mick, come up for a coffee. And so your emotions are right up here. You then meet up with Billy Billingham, like-minded, back to normal again. And it's just what we want. Someone to bring you. And Billy's been great as well. A week later, he asked me to help him with doing something, which is great because it was good to meet up with another 4 like-minded people. So you can sit down and chat and everything else. It's all about talk.
Yeah.
People, we like to bottle things up massively. We're pretty proud people. We don't like asking for help. Even though we were really brassic, I've never thought about signing on the dole. It's just not our way. We know our value. We know that we can do good and help people. But we tend to be really bad at asking for that help back. But I'm a big believer now. Talking is key. If you can just sit there and phone someone up and speak to them, no matter who they are, if someone offers you, a shoulder to talk or an ear to talk to, then talk to them.
Genuinely, I'm really hoping that this is helping you in as well, and particularly as well. I'm really hoping that viewers can resonate with this. And I've got a mixed feeling, actually. I've got a feeling of despair that it came to that, but also great hope that the positives aspect, you were saved, and that people have shown they care.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah. Funny old thing. So bodyguards. So you get footballers who behave badly, and the professional football clubs, what they do is we'll give you a bodyguard to sort you out. Make sure you're not. Well, that actually does a lot more damage because you're not actually fixing the problem.
Yeah.
So I'm all for let's get the footballer in, let's get his family in, and let's teach you how to behave properly because that's the long-term fix. Putting bodyguards on someone is a short-term, easy way for football clubs to say, nothing's wrong, we've got that now. And it's just a mental thing. You know, people need to sit down and understand the wider world and what happens within it and everything else.
So what's the outlook for you, Mick?
Oh, at the moment, again, you know, you're still worried about how do you keep the wolves away from the door. So we're still looking for work, still trying to do as much as we can. We're doing a lot of helping, but because these are vulnerable people we're helping, so you know, we're not going to charge for vulnerable people because unfortunately it's the vulnerable people of the world. So the Jewish community at the moment, for instance, who could afford it, but women's refuges, you know, really vulnerable people. These people can't afford the type of security that security companies give. So we've always said, listen, we'll come and help you. No charge. You know, we'll get there.
I find it astounding that through these dark days, you can put others above your own needs, and that shows your true character.
To be honest, we've always done that. You know, so why? You know, yes, I had attempted suicide, I suppose, but that's not going to change how we are. You know, we are who we are, and you know, people. If people are feeling vulnerable, listen, we're going to come and we're going to help you. So it's a bit like because people, when I was at my most vulnerable, I was getting people talking to me. So that resonates massively. So if we can help people that are vulnerable, that feel that they're not getting the support from the government or whoever else, then if we can do something, we'll do something like you know.
Never forget that support is going to be there for you, Mick.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's been quite mind-boggling for me the support we've received, especially you know, there's a guy in Belfast who I've never met before called Ken Perry. He runs a media safety advisor course, and he ran it down in London. Called me up, said, Mick, I know you're going through a bit of a thing. They said, but come down, I'll pay for the hotel. Come on the course. Um, and he says, all I want you to do is just talk about situational awareness and a bit of kidnapping, a bit of active shooter. But come down there because you're with like-minded people. So we went down there, never met Ken before. He runs an absolute fantastic course. So if you're thinking about getting into media safety and security, have a chat with Ken Perry. Anyway, so I went down there and it was just a breath of fresh air spending 4 days with like-minded people talking about stuff, about keeping people safe, journalists, for instance, and everything else. So, you know, when people do that for you, then, yeah, you know, life's worth living.
I've always brought my children up with the ethos that communication is so important through in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
You've brought today a completely fresh take on how important communication is in a different sense. Mick, it's been a fabulous chat, and I'm so glad that you are here to do that. And I want you to come back with there's so much more we've been discussing. I'm sure we episode 3. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thanks for the invite, and great for me, really, just to be able to talk, and that's important.
Well, that is truly an astonishing tale, and I'm completely flummoxed by it. And I hope that you can take things from this yourselves. And if you know of anybody in a similar situation, or if you can help Mick as well, get in touch and don't leave it. Thanks very much.